Not everyone who lives alone is lonely, and not everyone surrounded by people feels genuinely connected. There's a type of loneliness that has nothing to do with the number of people in your life, but everything to do with the distance between you and yourself. The most insidious thing about this kind of loneliness is that we get used to it gradually. It doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in quietly. It starts with small things, declining an invitation from friends, not answering a specific call, or telling yourself, "I'm fine on my own," even when you're not. With each act of avoidance, the quietness within you becomes the new normal. You start to feel a strange sense of comfort in silence, in not having to explain why you're upset, or even showing that you are. In that moment, loneliness isn't a flaw, it's a solution. You were seeking a space to calm down, protect yourself, and sort through the chaos inside. No one can blame you for that, because sometimes solitude is the only way to keep from falling apart. However, what was once a temporary fix can become a way of life. Without realizing it, you start shutting the door on anyone who tries to get close. Any attempt at connection, no matter how small, is met with the self-proclaimed identity of, "I'm not social," "I prefer my own company," or "I am self-sufficient." You might even believe it. But the real question is this truly a choice, or is it a defense mechanism that has solidified into a core belief? You don't just wake up one day and find yourself lonely. It's a long process that may have started with a betrayal, a time you felt misunderstood, or a moment when you needed support and didn't receive it. In those moments, you told yourself, "I'm better off this way." And for a while, it was comforting. But in the long run, the solitude you saw as a shield transforms into a cage. You become so accustomed to it that you forget it's not the natural state of being. There comes a point when you feel a strange sense of disconnect, as if you're among people but can't hear their voices, as if you're invisible. As Viktor Frankl wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, one of the most painful feelings is the sense of not existing, even when surrounded by others. Does this mean you need to be surrounded by people all the time? Of course not. The key is to ask yourself honestly, am I truly comfortable in my solitude? Or have I just forgotten what it's like to be heard and convinced myself that this silence is peace? Often you don't get used to loneliness because you love it, but because at some point you needed to protect yourself, and there was no other option. Maybe you tried to share your struggles, but you were misunderstood, dismissed, or ignored. Perhaps you shared something from the heart, only to have it used against you, so you decided, "Next time I won't say anything." And the next time you didn't even try. With each withdrawal, the wall around you grew higher until you and your isolation were in a comfortable yet cold relationship. Your brain switches to a defensive mode, telling you, "Stay alone. At least no one can hurt you." And that's true, but it's not the whole truth. You pay a price in other ways: a lack of connection, an absence of warmth, and the feeling of being unseen and misunderstood. As humans, we have a fundamental need for genuine connection, to be heard without judgment, to express ourselves without fear, and to say, "I'm not okay," without worrying that people will run away. When these needs are repeatedly unmet, the mind decides to shut down and suppress these feelings. Loneliness then ceases to be a choice and becomes an ingrained habit. According to a study by Robin Dunbar, a professor of psychology, the average person needs 3 to 5 close, healthy relationships to maintain their psychological stability. Just 3 to 5. But when you get used to being alone, you start to see these relationships as a burden. Why bother with the drama, you might think? I'm fine as I am. But are you truly fine, or are you just afraid of getting hurt again? Is your comfort in solitude real? Or is it a temporary anesthetic that masks the pain without healing the wound? In the midst of all this, you might find that months or even years have passed, and you've been watching the world from a distance, neither a true participant nor fully detached. You don't know how to get back or even where to begin. The two faces of solitude: building versus breaking. At times, solitude can be a blessing.
In moments when the world is too loud and no one is listening, we need to retreat into ourselves, sit with our pain, understand it, and put ourselves back together before facing the world again. Positive solitude doesn't mean cutting off all your relationships. It means being comfortable with being by yourself without feeling incomplete. In his book, Man's Search for Himself, Rollo May distinguishes between two ideas: solitude and loneliness. Solitude is a chosen space for reflection, contemplation, and understanding your emotions. Loneliness, on the other hand, is a feeling of alienation, even from yourself. The key difference is that the former is a conscious choice with a purpose, while the latter is a sense of loss and an inability to reconnect. Many creative individuals and deep thinkers say their best ideas come in moments of solitude, not when they are surrounded by people or even when they are talking, but when they are silent and listening to their inner voice. However, these moments are powerful because they are temporary and intentional, not a permanent way of life. There's a significant difference between taking time for yourself to see things clearly and living in isolation to escape from yourself and others. Conscious solitude helps you build. It allows you to know who you are, set boundaries, and decide who you want in your life. But unintentional loneliness makes you forget who you are and view anyone who tries to get close as a threat. A simple test can tell you which one you're experiencing. Does your time alone make you return to the world stronger, or does it make you build another wall between you and others? If you emerge from your solitude feeling weaker, not calmer, then it's not healthy solitude. It's loneliness that needs to be addressed. When solitude becomes a danger zone. At a certain point, loneliness stops being a quiet space for reflection and turns into a hole you're slowly sinking into. The strange thing is, this hole doesn't always look gloomy. It can be calm and orderly, with a familiar routine and no surprises. But inside, there's a cold emptiness that never gets filled. Loneliness becomes negative when you no longer choose it. When you wake up and find you can't bring yourself to talk to anyone, even if you need to. It's when you feel that even if you disappeared, it wouldn't matter to anyone. Loneliness becomes dangerous when it starts affecting your mental and physical health. You might find yourself anxious for no apparent reason, your sleep disturbed, and your energy levels low. You might experience digestive issues and constantly feel on edge or easily irritated. Science confirms this. A study published in The Lancet suggests that the physical impact of loneliness can be equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. This isn't a metaphor. Prolonged loneliness increases cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and affects the heart, immune system, digestive system, and even memory. The worst part is that it makes you start doubting yourself. Maybe I'm unlovable. Maybe I'm a burden. Maybe nobody wants me. This is one of the most dangerous psychological consequences, because instead of seeking help, you start blaming yourself for needing it. So you remain silent, and your silence is misinterpreted, causing people to distance themselves further, which in turn confirms your belief that you are truly alone, trapping you in a vicious cycle. People who get used to loneliness without addressing its root cause reach a point where they feel unable to return, not because there are no opportunities, but because they have forgotten how to connect with others. They've forgotten the spontaneity of laughter, the simple joy of talking to someone without a purpose, and the comfort of knowing that someone listens simply because they care. The path to reconnection. Some people reach this point and give up, saying, "This is who I am now. I'm not a people person. I'm comfortable in my solitude." But this isn't comfort, it's adaptation. And it isn't strength, it's a protective shell over an old wound. If you get close enough, you'll find that you still need connection. You just don't know where to start. Healing from an attachment to loneliness doesn't begin with forcing yourself to attend social events or reconnecting with old friends. It starts with something much simpler, admitting that you miss people and that this is not a flaw. Need is not a sign of weakness. It's the first sign that you're still alive.
and your spirit is still seeking connection. The next step is to start small. Send a text message, make a short phone call, share something you love with someone. They don't have to be your closest friends. It's enough to give yourself a chance to see people again. With every attempt, you'll face resistance. Your mind will tell you, you'll get your hopes up and be disappointed, or you'll embarrass yourself, or no one has time for you. But this is the voice of fear, not truth. Do your part. Reach out. Participate. Even if you feel like a burden, trust that there are people waiting for you. Perhaps they too are used to their own loneliness and are waiting for someone like you to open the door. If, after all this, you still feel unable to reconnect, remember that therapy is not a luxury. It's not because you're broken, but because you need someone to teach you how to emerge from the shell you've built around yourself without shattering. It's about learning to say, "I'm lonely and I want to get out," without feeling weak. Loneliness is not your destiny, and connecting with people is not a miracle. You deserve to come out of your isolation without losing yourself. A quick self-check. Answer these questions honestly. There are no right or wrong answers, but every yes is an invitation to look at things from a different perspective. Has it been a while since you've spoken to someone just for the sake of talking, without a specific reason? Do you feel more at ease in solitude, even if it's accompanied by a touch of sadness? Does talking about your feelings feel heavy, pointless, or meaningless? When someone tries to get close to you, do you feel a sense of internal resistance or tension? Do you look at people on social media and feel like they live in a different world than you do? When was the last time you hugged someone or were told, "I miss you"? Do you remember? Do you feel that most relationships are superficial and don't reach the heart, so you've decided to keep your distance? Do you feel that when you withdraw, no one notices? Have you started to love and get used to a routine that doesn't involve people, even though you weren't like that before? Is there a voice inside you that sometimes says, "I'm not important enough for anyone to truly care about me"? If you answered yes to more than half of these questions, it's not the end of the world, but it is a sign that you need to reconsider, not the people around you, but the space within you that is still searching for warmth, even if you've learned to silence it. The mere fact that you've read this far means you still want to see the light, you want to change, and you still have hope. If any of these words resonated with you, if you feel that loneliness has become more than just a habit and is now a part of who you are, let it be known. Share your story. You are not alone in this, even if you've grown accustomed to the feeling of being so.